Welcome to Skills to Pay the Bills and today's segment of ShirleyLouFinance.com. We are your hosts, Shirley Luu and Tia Young. Today, Shirley is going to share her heart and soul with us as we talk about her passion and how she went from being a pampered little princess to using McDonald's as a temporary shelter for herself and her children, and how she fought to pull herself up to building the Luu Dynasty, a financial services and community outreach organization. Shirley, how you doing?
Fantastic. Every time I see you, it's always been my friend.
Okay, good. And I know that and every time I see you, you're just getting back in town. So I know that you were in Mexico
Yes.
Last week. Mm-hmm. So what new things did you learn in Mexico that will help us in planning for our financial security?
Well, I learned first of all, not to kiss a seal.
Not to kiss a seal?
While he has fish in his mouth.
Ooh. Oh,
no, we had a wonderful time in Cabos. We took about 200 associates, all paid expense trip for them. So they got to enjoy, we did horseback riding, swim with the dolphin, kissing seal, and do all these other wonderful stuff. It was a great adventure, riding a camel and all that. So it was a wonderful trip and a reward for our folks, and that's been great.
And I know it was a vacation, but I've never known you to go on a straight vacation, so I bet you were doing work while you were there.
Just a little bit, just a little bit. Of course, you always kind of meet some of the executives, always want to know what's the latest in the industry, and it's amazing, amazing. So many new things that hits the industry when it comes to retirement, and so many folks still don't know out there. So that I got really came back really psyched up, and so does everybody.
So can you tell us like one thing you learned that's new, that's out there that maybe our viewers don't know about and that I don't know about either?
Well, you know how in the past I kept talking about index stuff where when the market makes a lot of money, you can make with it. The market goes down, you lock it down.
Right.
And usually a lot of those companies, even if they give you unlimited gain, with no losses.
Right.
So it's like going gambling in a casino, play all day long, you never lose.
Right.
So these kind of saving retirement stuff, people look at me like, But what makes it really unique is that in the old traditional, when I educate them, before, like, for example, if the market makes, 10, 12, 15%, the first thing they do is the insurance company in some cases may take 4%. Right?
That's right.
So they keep it for the threshold. So if the market did only 8%, they take the first 4 and you get 4. Well, if their new product now emerged, the first 7%, it all goes to you first.
Wow.
That's
something different, right?
Yeah, and it's so exciting that, so imagine this, so if the market only make 2-3%, you as a client automatically gets that before they take any of the 4%.
Wow.
So up to 7%, and then from 7 to 12, the insurance could keep the threshold, and then anything above 12, the client gets. And so in a market that's make, let's say 21%, the client's still keeping 16% of the money.
Well, Shirley, let me ask you a question. It appears that every week or every couple of weeks, the market is continually to correct itself. Is that going to continue on for the rest of the year, or do you think that we're getting to a point where the market is going to stabilize a little bit?
I don't think it's going to be stabilized anytime soon.
You don't?
No.
You really? That's your gut feeling?
I think you're going to look more dynamic in the changes on that. That's just because there's a lot of things that's happening today, in the world and around here. And people think that just because it doesn't happen in the U.S., no, international could affect everything that we do here as well. The European, so there's just a lot of uncertainty, even between the Russia stuff and here as well.
Wow, that's something.
And, so there's a lot of uncertainty. I met on the plane, sat next to an executive of a TV radio station, and what he said was, he said, wow, he said he got so scared that he literally sold his multi-million-dollar home.
He sold his home?
Yeah, that was on the beach over the ocean. And so I asked him, I said, well, why'd you sell your home? He said, well, because, he said, I don't think just the market, I think the housing even going to make changes to it. So to me, that's kind of pretty.
Yeah, we went through that in 2008, and I thought maybe that had kind of mellowed out. So that's not going to be good if we go through another housing issue.
Yeah, well, I think the housing, it's going to correction in there as well.
Oh, wow.
I know. But
okay, so we just have to be prepared.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Shirley, I have known you for 10 years, and you have been consistent and relentless in your efforts to assure that everybody is covered. You'll talk to your next door neighbor. You talk to the person sitting to you in the movies, on the plane. You want to make sure that everybody is covered for life and health and their retirement. Why do people, a lot of people are saying, okay, I know that I need this, but my husband or my wife lost a job. We don't hardly have any money. We're living out of $1,500 a month, and even though I know that we need this, I just can't figure out how we can save enough money to get insurance for everybody. What would you say to someone that brought that up to you like that?
It's interesting that you said that, okay? Mm-hmm. Because this morning was a great example. My housekeeper came in. Mm-hmm. She makes good money doing my housekeeping for me. And when I said to her, and I said, can you save $200 for your family, for your retirement, for your future? And you know what she says?
What?
No, I can't afford it. And I looked at her and I said, I know for a fact that you clean my house, you make more than $200. And I know it's not just my house, you clean many houses. And you work 7 days a week. And you work from 7 a.m. in the morning to midnight every night. Mm.
Is she single parent? Or
she's single.
She's a single parent.
She's single. Mm-hmm. So I said, so what are you doing with that money? And she started smiling. I said, I know. Because the people, see, when people tell me they can't save it, can't do this, it's a priority. It is a priority. I can always find money somewhere. Because the same very person sometimes tell me they can't afford this and that, but guess what they'll do? They will go out to a restaurant to dinner. Women will get their nails done.
Right, and the hair.
The hair and all the other stuff. Mm-hmm. I believe it's a sense of being disciplined.
Priorities.
And if I were to ask you to save $3 a day or $5 a day, something like that, that's not something crazy amount of money. But the question is that, can you afford not to? Imagine you're employed right today and you're telling you can't afford to save. Imagine what it's like when you're unemployed. So again, for anyone who's not saving and investing or none of that, it's just a priority. Yes, money is tight and all that, but believe me, there's always something there. I guarantee with you, every one of those tell me that they couldn't afford, do they have a cell phone?
Probably.
Not only do they have a cell phone, their kids have a cell phone as well.
Well, Shirley, do you think it's that, now when you said, I'm asking you to save $3 or $5, do you think a lot of people just don't believe or don't realize that you can have some level of protection for your family for that small amount of money? I think people are thinking that, I get $500 a week and you're going to take $350 of it.
Exactly. Well, again, like I said, when I sit with someone, it's a matter of taking a look, where's your expense? Where are you spending it on? And what do you have set aside?
Okay.
And on the other hand, the people told me that debt broke, they don't have any money. I said, well, come work with me, I'll give you money.
That's a point.
So that solves everything.
So you're saying the first thing is to be realistic and sit down with a pad and paper and a calculator and really see where your income and expenses are going.
Absolutely.
And if they do that with you, you can find.
Right.
Because you figure Starbucks.
And even folks that said they don't have money, and I said, okay, well, let me ask you this. If I can put $500 to $1,000 in your pocket for coming to meet with me, would you do it? The answer is that, and if you tell me, okay, you can't, then you can't. But what if I can put money in their pocket, do certain things and helping them, teaching them, reaching out, Right. So there's so many ways, so everything to me, it's just a matter of excuse, really,
Right.
But I could change. Mm-hmm. And our teams change. We're growing exponentially, so there's a reason for it.
I know you're growing because you've been, in the last 6 months, you've been all over the country.
I've got to.
And you had a team of
hiring,
people in your office the other day that were from other parts of the United States that had come in to meet with you.
Yeah, it's getting so busy right now that I went ahead and went in ZipRecruiter, and I'm in the process of hiring. We got about 475 resumes to go through.
Wow. So
our TV audience out there, you see that how the opportunities is also if they wanted to reach out to me, as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, we're going to get personal a little bit. I know that you and your sister Helen,
yes,
came to America when you guys were a lot younger than you are now. I don't think you were like 10 or 11. I think
was
you were
10.
Were you 10? Okay,
Yeah,
you were
10
10 years
yeah,
old. And Helen is younger.
Helen's
younger than you. So you guys kind of came from being little pampered princesses type in Vietnam.
Yes.
And you went from that to, at one point in your life, where McDonald's was almost like a temporary shelter for you and the kids. You went from that to developing and raising up the Luu dynasty. Can you talk a little bit about that, what you're comfortable with sharing? Because I think that there are a lot of women out there that are, and I say women, I know that there's some men too that have had really strong challenges in their lives as well. But right now I'm talking about women because that's what I see out there a lot. With single moms, you know, some have had husbands, some have not, but yet they're struggling, trying to make ends meet. And they're feeling low, they feel like they're not worth anything, they feel like they can't do anything right. What would be your advice to them? I mean, how did you go from, you might say, from riches to rags and back to riches again? How did that, what did you do?
You know, it's interesting. Yes, you're absolutely correct. When I was in Vietnam, where we lived, it was like similar, like a castle. You know, it's beautiful. It's got tar places. I had maid. I had a driver come pick me up to school. You took the piano lesson. You do this and that. You know, president came to our house and senator. And, you know, so yes, we had a good life. And then suddenly I was thrown into the United States because the war, it was not a choice that I wanted to come here, but regardless, I had to come over here because the war ended. And so it became, United States became the land of opportunity, you know, and thank God for that, you know, that I had an opportunity to come over here. And when I came over here, I went kind of back down to rags because we had 6 kids, live in a small home. We lost everything, you know, so that was pretty much starting from scratch. And then later on built ourselves up after I got married, you know, had a beautiful home, big house, marble stairway, you know, entering, you know, the main houses, went on vacation, lived the American dreams, all these wonderful things. And then suddenly I got the rug pulled out of my, underneath me.
I'm going to stop you there. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about that rug being pulled out from under your feet.
Absolutely.
We're going to take a short station break, and we will return shortly after these important announcements.
Fairfax County is one of the wealthiest counties in the country, but there are currently over 1,200 people that are homeless. 59% of the adults in these families are working but unable to locate affordable housing.
Shelter House is an organization that works with the homeless to provide services that promote self-sufficiency. Housing is the key to getting these Fairfax citizens back on their feet.
We're looking to connect prospective tenants with landlords that are willing to give them a chance. If you or someone you know is a landlord and has a property to rent, please contact the Shelter House.
Thank you for joining us on Skills to Pay the Bills in today's segment of ShirleyLouFinance.com. Today we are sharing Shirley's story. You know, I call it her story and her passion. She knows what it's like to have things, and she also knows what it's like to have nothing, where you have to start all over again from scratch. So before the break, Shirley, you were saying that the rug got pulled from under you once you got here to the States.
Exactly. You know, so, you know, came over here. I basically, you know, got married, and when I said to you, the rug got pulled underneath me because, you know, I was one of those family, you know, you go vacation every year, 2 weeks vacation, you travel, you do things, you got a good job, and, you know, you're living the life that the American dream, you know, you got a house, picket fence, those kind of things, you know. But, you know, a lot of time, you know, perception is not always what it is.
That's true.
It is not, and even to this day, a lot of folks see me as, she got it all. She's all had everything's been handed a platter. But what they don't know is there are stories behind to every person. I'm sure you have stories.
I do.
You do have a story,
And they're not
and,
all
and I'm sure every TV
happy.
camera person here
That's
has got
true.
a story as
That's
well.
very
You know,
true.
and sometimes the stories are not always told.
Right.
You know, but I would tell you this, and sometimes when things happen to you in life, it happens for a reason, and it brings you a different direction in life. In my case, it's sad that it happened, but it's brought me to where I am today.
It made you stronger.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You know? So one of the things I want to kind of share with you a little bit, Tia, recently I spoke at the Shelter House organization. And it has to do with an organization to help homeless, you know, I'm giving a little plug, homelessness, women and children don't have a place to stay and getting back on their feet due to loss of job, whatever it may be, or, you know, it could be from alcoholic and from, you know, just violence. I mean, all those things that happens, you know. And so,
And this was called, it's Shelter House? Shelter
yes.
House, okay.
Yeah, Shelter House, yeah, org. And they're pretty dynamic group in this area. I mean, they have helped hundreds and thousands of family and home. So I've been very passionate about that organization. And the reason I recently spoke at their event is because I wanted some of the keynote speaker, and they asked me to share the stories. And here's some of the excerpt from that presentation that day as I was working with them, okay? And one of the things I talked to was having to do with domestic violence, okay? So I kind of read that a little bit. See, Tia, here's the thing. Domestic violence, you know, really has a direct impact, you know, both physically and one's state of mind, you know, physically and mentally. It can get to you, you know? And see, the abuser that normally does domestic violence, it doesn't really care. He or she doesn't care whether it's color, religion, origin, gender, or education. You know, it knows no discrimination, Tia. See, even abuses even happens to the best of us, believe it or not. You know, I'm about to share with you the stories that I don't hardly ever share, even with my closest confidential friends, Tia. And see, I told you a story briefly. I originally came from Vietnam. My grandfather passed away in a mine explosion while he's mining the field. And of course, when the communists took over, my uncle was put in jail, the communist jail, you know, for 10 years. You know, it was really, really sad, you know. And of course, faith, as it turned out, gave me the level of opportunity, came here, living the American dream, you know, go on vacation and all those wonderful stuff. But, you know, there was a darker side of my family that no one's seen. All they saw is the glitzy,
Right.
the like
The outer shell.
yeah. And see, you see, Tia, my father-in-law had previously really abused my mother-in-law. And when I was over here and I see pictures of his son over here with bloody face and, you know, all bruises and all that, I've always thought, why would someone stay with someone like that? You know, when someone abused you and hit you and all that, and you yet still put up with it day in, day out. You know, I simply never understood why someone would take that kind of things, you know?
Right.
Until it happened to me one day.
It happened to you?
Yeah. And what happened was that I was in the process of going through some crisis, you know, with my personal family. And my husband at that time had basically said to me, you know, I can't get a divorce. You know, if I were to get a divorce, basically what he would do is he would kill me. He would kill me. And so he didn't hit me, but he threatened me.
The verbal.
The verbal stuff. And it got to a point where I was fearful for my life. I mean, I told a story once. I was in a car and we're driving down the highway, and he would tell me, see, the next road barrier, if I find it, I'm going to find a road barrier so you and I can crash into it and die together.
Oh, Shirley.
And you know, it was very, very tough. I would be so scared. I said, okay, I'm sorry, you know, I'm not going to leave you. I'm going to stay with you. And you do whatever it takes to try to get yourself out of that situation at that time. Tia, it got so frightful for me that I literally had to write 2 letters, 2 separate letters. One letter is to my best friend at that time, you know, and the other one was to my sister, Helen, you mentioned. And I said to them both, I said, these are 2 separate letters. These letters are to be used in court. In the event, if I die tomorrow or any time, it was not because of anything, not by accident, but it was by murder. Because I was so fearful for my life, and that's the only way you can. And and it became rougher, and then one day it began from mentally, and then one day he decided, pushed and stopped me and kicked me.
So it went from verbal to actual physical.
And I knew at that time that it was time for me to take action, because I knew that it would escalate, because knowing what his dad did to his mom, I was afraid, And so immediately, that day, I had to call the police. They came over, they took him away, but due to circumstances, sometimes with kids and family, his mom and dad begging me, pleading me, please don't press charges and things like that. So I kind of let it go, you know what I mean? And as tension kept going by and by, it got so intense here. Then one day, my husband, I got a call from my son, Michael, at that time, and he calls me, he goes, Mom, come home right away, and there's been an accident. And I'm like, what, and I'm on the other phone, and he said, Dad had hung himself at the house. I tell you,
Michael couldn't have been any more than
15 years old.
15 years old, yeah.
And for 15-year-olds to witness, death at that time, I was driving home and I can remember I was shaking. I couldn't believe that, oh my God, you'd mean to tell me this is happening. And Tia, to be honest with you, the situation got so bad that I had envisioned there were blood either on my son's hand or my husband's hand at that time. It got that bad in the family situation, you understand? And I was so fearful, and immediately, at that time, to be honest with you, when it happened, I didn't realize it, but apparently my husband had also let his life insurance lapsed. So from a financial standpoint, as a woman, having 3 kids and, 1-year-old and a 15 and 16-year-old, you're dragging around here, 4 mouths to feed. How do you survive? Things was extremely, extremely tough. And one of the things, it was very difficult. And I can remember at that time, we had to move out of the house and we had to find a place to live. And when you're at your lowest point, you gravel. Right. My friend at that time said, well, you can't move until 5, 6 o'clock. I'm like, okay. You just say, yes, ma'am.
Right.
And at that time, I remember my daughter, Amanda, and Michael, and they got home early, and the little baby Jade came back to the old house. They couldn't get into it, and they went outside to the old porch and said, Mom, where do we go? And as a mom, it ripped your hearts out. Mm-hmm. How do you have all this, and suddenly you don't have a place, you lost everything. And so the only thing I can say is, like you said, McDonald's. I wanted the kids to go to McDonald's. I said, why don't you go to McDonald's, hang out there until we could move in, It probably was one of the toughest times of my life.
Yeah.
So that brings me to a point where I am today. I'm passionate into financial industry because audience and TV out there, I don't care who you are, make sure your family have a legacy for protection. Make sure you have financial understanding. I'm passionate about teaching women because I think it's so crucial that women sometimes depend so much on the man and other stuff. And I talk to so many women, if something would happen today, they have nothing. And so many women goes out there today, had the husband working a job for the government and IT and all the other stuff. Right. And then everybody out there, Tia, are buying the simple term insurance, which pays out less than 1% of death. Out of 100 people, pays out like 1%. Why? Because term eventually goes away, doesn't leave anything, doesn't leave legacy. And yet everybody out there today are driving towards that. Because I've been there, done that, seeing what had happened. And I've seen countless of stories of client comes into me and thinking the husband have all this, because at that time they're buying these cheapo stuff. And then at the end of the day, you don't leave a legacy. You don't leave any of that. And so to me, the wealthy just know how to get richer and richer, know how to leave a legacy, financially plan, and the rest of us don't. Right. 98% of the American people, out of 100 people I talk to, 98% of them are not even ready for retirement. At all.
And they're in their 50s, some of them.
They're in their 50s, and
50s,
it's really sad that in that situation,
Yeah.
So I want to change that game, and And you know, I'm proud to say where I've been and where I am today. You know, I managed to put Michael and Amanda both through college with zero debt. You know,
That's
and Jade's on her way, you know, to be where she is at. And I want to be able to reach out, you know, pay back forward. Pay it forward, I guess you can call it.
Yes.
So I'm passionate and want to reach out to help anyone and anybody where we need to. I'm proud to say, you know, Shirley Luu Finance, you know, and First Financial Security is at the heart of it because we're a company with hearts, you know, that wants to make a difference. So.
Well, Shirley, I mean, I've known you for 10 years, and some of the things that you've shared here, I didn't know. I did not know that. And it helps me to see why at 2 o'clock in the morning, if somebody is having an issue or whatever, you're right there to talk to them.
Yes.
You're like the ever-ready bunny rabbit. I mean, it just keeps on going and keeps on going. And it helps me to understand you a little bit better in terms of your passion and how you don't give up. If this doesn't work, you just go to the next, and you just keep trying to tell the whole world about making, especially women, you know, making sure that they're covered.
You ever heard a story about the starfish, where this kid walking on the beach, he picks one at a time, and he throws in the ocean, and then there was so many starfish all over the sand, and so the one guy said, well, why are you picking one? You can't save them all. You're right. When it comes to financial services and for future and everyone's future, I can't save everybody, but for anyone who's willing to allow me to do that, I can change one life at a time, and that's what it's about.
That's beautiful. That is what it's all about. Yeah. Shirley, thank you so much for sharing the personal side of you. I know that wasn't an easy thing to do, and so I'm grateful that you were willing to share it with our audience today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for watching Skills to Pay the Bills and today's segment of ShirleyLouFinance.com.